Good early morning to you. It is Sunday, September 22nd at 12:51 a.m. here in central Indiana. Hope you're doing well. Purdue has just lost their second game of the season. They dropped to 1-2 on the relatively young season by losing in Corvallis, 38-21. There's a lot of ways to look at this one. I got a lot of thoughts. I am watching a game especially. I get pretty knee jerky and tend to make some pretty big snap judgments, and made some last week and decided not to air all my grievances last week because I wanted to wait to see how this team would react after coming off of a historical ass kicking. And they did this. Let's talk about it in a second. But first, let me thank the people who made my t-shirt. My friends at Homefield Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Grab a shirt, grab a sweatshirt, grab a hat. Put it in your cart. Enter Boiled25 at checkout. Get 15% off your first purchase. And of course, when you're on campus, and you'll have another opportunity to go on campus next week. I think next week is homecoming versus Nebraska. I think that's a noon kickoff. So I am probably going to head to AJ's after the game. I think that's a logical thing to do. But head over to AJ's. Head towards the fire station and then head over to AJ's. If you want to order ahead, eatajs.com. It's burgers, beef, and beer. That's AJ's. All around good guys. Great service. Delicious food. TVs on the wall. Tell me tell me what's wrong with that. You can't tell me what's wrong with that because there's nothing wrong there. AJ's. All right. So, is it too early in the season to say that your alma mater's team sucks? I don't think so now. I don't think so. And I don't even like using that word. But they're a bad team. They do bad things. They, whatever the opposite of complimentary football is what Purdue plays. If the defense needs help, needs to be picked up, have the offense strike, they can't do it. If the defense creates a situation where the offense is going to get the ball with a short field by, I don't know, stopping the opponent after 4 downs and they go for it for some dumbass reason on the 37, you expect the offense to come back, do something big, score points. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do that because that's not what this team is made for. I don't know what they're made for, to tell you the truth. You've got a major crisis in identity for your Purdue Boilermakers right now because you've got a coach that claims to be a son of the air raid. Mike Leach, one of the most brilliant offensive minds ever to coach in the college game, supposedly brought Graham Harrell up in that thing. And Graham Harrell said, make no mistake, air raid doesn't mean passing all the time. It means instituting air raid philosophies. Well, I can tell you what I saw tonight does not resemble anything to do with the air raid. And this is a consistent theme with Graham Harrell's offense. Graham Harrell's offense doesn't really pass the ball that much. They run the ball pretty effectively. That's the interesting thing. But they don't know how to strike quickly. They don't know how to find the space in the defense. They are not opportunistic. And they frustrate the hell out of me. If you're going to ask me if there's anything Purdue can do right now to try to make things better, here's the problem. When you hire a coaching staff that's really capable and has a bunch of veterans on it, you can fire somebody and the next man up can step up and do the job. Purdue can't do that right now. Purdue doesn't have a bunch of experience on the coaching staff, a bunch of guys that have been around, really know their stuff. And so Purdue should fire someone. I said it last week. They should have fired somebody. They didn't do it. This week, they should fire somebody. They're not going to do it. And if they did it, who would step into the place, right? If Ryan Walters said, okay, time for some accountability, somebody's getting canned. What do you do if you fire a coordinator? Who steps up? Because the coordinators are 2 of the most experienced people on the staff, and they're not very experienced. And they show it week in, week out by not being able to make adjustments, not being able to make smart play calls, not being able to get the team out there to do big things, make plays. So here's let's start off. Let's break things down. So I've got friends out there who do not want me to call it Hudson Card, and that's fine. Hudson Card's a good guy. Like I said, I've met him. He's a talented guy. On paper, he's amazing. Runs fast, throws the ball well, strong, big kid. Hudson Card makes bad decisions, and Hudson Card does things that are detrimental to the team. He's probably the best quarterback on this roster by a lot right now, too. So if you bench him, or if you just say, we're going to give it a break for a drive or two, you're not going to get anything done. Is it his fault that the play calling's so bad? No. But is it his fault that he can't, on a option read or on a he can't pull the ball out quick enough and then Purdue fumbles? That's his fault, right? Is it his fault that when a defensive end gets upfield that he tries to throw it through the guy, and because of that, the defensive end gets a hand on the ball gets kicked by the running back, and the ball caroms back into the defensive end's hands? It leads to a pick six. It's one of the most unlucky plays I've ever seen. Make no bones about it. But it starts from the poor decision making. And we saw poor decision making last year from Hudson Card, and we still see poor decision making from Hudson Card. Is the game on Hudson Card's feet? No, it's not. And last week, I didn't say it was his fault either, but he does make a lot of mistakes, especially for a guy who's been out of high school for 5 years. And if you're looking, as many teams are, for a quarterback to come in on a white horse and do big things, we haven't seen it yet from Hudson Card. Again, I'm not damning the man. I'm saying as a quarterback, it's not working right now. It's not working. But it's, again, I'll say here, there are layers of failure here, especially on offense. Let's go through them real quickly. Last week, the offensive line was abysmal. This week, the offensive line was not bad. I think the offensive line was pretty good. I haven't checked how many times Card was sacked. But the offensive line seemed to do their job. But the play calling was abysmal this week. The offensive play calling was predictable. Oregon State seemed to know what Purdue was going to do before they did it almost every play. And because of that, they were able to just shut Purdue down. I'm going to check in a second how many times exactly Hudson Card threw the ball. But last time I checked, late in the game, it was 16 or 13 times, something like that, late in the game. This is modern college football, right? And so if a team passes in the teens, you say, wow, they are really, really resolute on running the ball. Oregon State, I believe, passed the ball in the teens. I'm going to double check it. But that's because they're a team that just absolutely is trying to say, we are going to run the ball, live and die of the run, right? So, but I think Purdue passed for a similar amount, and that's an air raid offense, supposedly. Okay, all right. On the other side of the ball, here's the thing about the deep safety, man-to-man defense that Purdue plays. Oregon State figured something out. Their coach, who I think made some pretty boneheaded decisions over and over, gave Purdue tons of opportunities. I think Purdue had 4 or 5 opportunities that they simply didn't take advantage of. Just didn't think it was the right time to go ahead and score, even though the ball was given to them in pretty opportune situations. Purdue didn't want to do anything with that. Yeah, I lost my train of thought there, but I'll come back to it in a second, I'm sure. I'm very frustrated, though, with the fact that Purdue comes off the historically bad loss, and we heard promises that Purdue wasn't going to be out-toughed and beaten in the trenches. Purdue was absolutely manhandled in this game. Like Oregon State, I don't think it's a good team. I mean, I think they're a bowl team, but I think it's like a 6 or 7 win team if they're in the Big Ten. 5 to 7 wins, probably. And Purdue just wasn't really in the game, right? After Oregon State got a 2-score lead in the second quarter, and that was it. Again, Purdue couldn't make adjustments in the second half. Okay, I know what the thought was. The thought is pretty simple. If you run the option against Purdue, you're gonna kick their ass, right? And I think you're going to see this over and over. Now that some other coaches have seen this, if Thieneman is the guy who's on the quarterback and you're running an option, so that you play assignment sound football, meaning everybody make sure you stay with your man in the option. The guy guarding the quarterback is coming from 20 yards away. So if you run an option, if you run it out in the flat and you've got a running back out there, he's going to come and try to get the quarterback 2 seconds late, a second late every single time. And he's going to be up the field every single time. And if the end or linebacker who's trying to string the play out decides, okay, I'm going to leave the running back, even though he's my assignment, I'm going to leave the running back and go get the quarterback. Now the running back is off to the races, and he's further away from Thieneman, who has to cover more ground. Pretty pretty poor formula for success, if you ask me. I'm a novice, right? I don't get paid millions of dollars to coach football, to coordinate. So I'm an idiot, I'm sure. People listening to this can tear me apart. But I can tell you that scheme is never, ever going to work against a team that has a quarterback that is at all crafty at making decisions and is just into stringing plays out and waiting until he sees everything. He's going to see there's nobody out here. So I can choose my poison at this point. So let's look at some stats together. Maybe I'm way off by these. I haven't seen the stats yet. So Hudson Card, 7 of 17, 56 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. The interception led directly to points because it was a pick six. But 7 of 17. And as much as there are people out there that want to be apologists, 7 of 17. You're below 50%, you're not passing the ball at all. That's not his fault. 56 big yards. And let me see, because this is going to be fun. Max Clare had 2 receptions for 46 yards. His longest was his longest was a 32-yard pass. And that was the pass to the right corner. Nice pass by Card to Clare in the corner of the end zone. That was a 32-yard pass, and Hudson Card had a total of 56 yards passing. Purdue ran the ball really, really well. Devin Mockabee continues to show why he is one of the best Purdue running backs I've ever seen. 16 carries, 168 yards, averaging 10.5 carries, or 10.5 yards a carry. Long touchdown. Short touchdown after the long run. He had a 63-yard run and then scored, 2 plays later? Reggie Love played solidly. 10 carries, 66 yards. That's more than solidly. 6.6 yards a carry. This air raid offense is awesome. Air raid. You have guys that can run the ball really carry. Hudson Card, couple good runs. 3 carries, 33 yards, 11 yards. Or 11 yards a carry. This isn't an air raid. Let's just stop the farce. Words should mean something, right? So this isn't an air raid offense. We'll call it whatever the hell you want. It's not the air raid. It's not an air raid. It's not a derivative of the air raid. It's not an air raid. Words should matter. Max Clare, somewhat big day. He's the guy that Card looks for. 2 receptions, 46 yards receiving. He had a touchdown, like I said. Leland Smith almost had a really long catch. Card overshot him just a little bit, but he had a catch. A bunch of other guys. Sawinski, Morissette, Dixon Veal, Reggie Love all had catches. Reggie Love's was sadly for a loss of 1. Just noticing now. Kedron Jenkins, KJ, monster game, and he was all over the field. He did really, really well getting up the field. 3 tackles for a loss. 2 of those were sacks. That's like the Jenkins box from last year, but 16 total tackles, 8 solo tackles. Hell of a game. Thieneman, 14 tackles, 7 solo. Another good game. So the 2 guys that you think should perform on defense do their job. Joe Jefferson had 10 tackles and 1 for a loss. Let's see. Anybody else? Okay, maybe I'll be proven wrong, and Oregon State's is going to be awesome. They're just going to go on a tear, and they're going to be a really, really good team, and they're going to contest their two-team conference, and they're going to go to the playoff. But from what I saw, that looked like a team that's good, solid. They're not as good as the Smith Oregon State teams in my opinion, based on what I saw a couple years ago in Ross-Ade, because Purdue was better then. Oregon State went toe to toe with them. They're not that good. They run the ball well, but sorry. Here's the other thing though. Purdue goes out on the West Coast, they lose. I think there's a historical thing. I think it's 2-9 the last 11 games, something like that, except for the bowl. I think it's fair to leave that out because you get a whole week to get ready for that game. But there's something that happens, whatever the opposite of magic is. That's what Purdue has on the West Coast. Next week. So here, if we want to keep giving second, third, fourth, how many chances we're going to give them? Purdue has a chance to, no excuses. Homecoming, Nebraska. They're not a great team. They're an okay team. But Nebraska really, they pissed away a game in overtime versus Illinois where they had that game. And so let's see what they do versus Nebraska. Let's see what Purdue does versus Nebraska. Nebraska looks pretty sound to me. They look like physically pretty darn good. So let's see what Purdue does next week versus Nebraska. After that, it just gets harder, boys and girls. So, all right, a lot of you guys are here. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. It's late, so if you're in Midwest time, like Karen Grulock says, Night Owls rule. Right on. Ryan Michael Anthony Harrington says, Harold can't keep getting away with this. Yeah, he's got to get away with it. Bad news. He's going to get away with it. We're with this for a while. It's just going to happen. I would be stunned if he has any accountability, but I think he's getting away with it. I think he gets paid $850,000. It's good business if you can find it. Greg McManus says, we're in the danger zone, boys. Yes, we are. We are teetering is another good way to describe it. He continues, Graham needs to resign or be fired tomorrow. Good thoughts. Not going to happen. Karen Grulock says, so worked up, no sleep for a while. Yep. Ben Carnahan says, college football isn't knee-jerking. You know when your staff has it or not. Brom, you knew it immediately. Yeah, we did, right? We knew it immediately. That Ohio game, you could say, wow, okay, this coaching staff is doing their homework, getting these guys ready, doing things, trying to find the weak parts of the defense. They looked, they swarmed around the ball. They weren't the best tackling team. Brom teams were never the best tackling team, but a bunch of dudes would be around the ball at least, right? And they would try to just destroy people, right? Just try to knock their heads off. Yeah, Purdue's got a lot of problems. Purdue's football team has a lot of problems. And we can talk about data points, like Anish tried to do that, try to be analytical. I appreciate analytics. I really do. I'm not an analytical guy. You know that. But we can try to use data points, or we can just for a second use our eyes and cross-reference what we've seen in the past. How many football games have you watched? I've watched a lot of football, and I can tell you I've watched a lot of Purdue football, and this Purdue team is, as they stand right now, not a good football team. They are not good. They are notably worse than last year. And I don't understand that other than it's a one-trick pony that hasn't changed anything. And the coaches thought, yep, all we need to do was get better and do what we do, and we're going to be awesome this year. That's all I can think this coaching staff thought, because they have made no adjustments. They're not able to make adjustments on the fly. There's no new wrinkles on the offense or the defense other than moving Jenkins, which to me seems like a bad wrinkle. I'll be honest. Jenkins, I said it last week, I think he should be in a different position. He seems a half step slow. He looked great today. That's the thing. This Oregon State team, if you look at them on paper, they're good in their first string, and they are not as good in their second string. Purdue need to put pressure on them, score points, get them playing from behind, so they would force them to pass, which they don't want to do. Purdue did not do that. And Oregon State gave Purdue plenty of opportunities to do that. Let's see. Karen Grulock, will there be anyone in the stadium next week? Yes, I bet it'll be full. Purdue fans are good fans. I keep saying this. Purdue fans are good fans. Purdue fans deserve more than this. My friend Handel Jones, who I think will be listening to this on delay, had a great quote. And he said, Purdue fans aren't super demanding. We don't demand championships, really. We'd like to see Purdue contend for a championship once out every, he didn't say this, I'd say once every 3 to 5 years, contend for a conference championship. I think Purdue fans would be relatively happy. And then go to a bowl, right? Consistently go to a bowl every other year. I think that would keep everyone pretty happy. But Handel had the best quote. He said, we're not demanding, but we want a team that we can be proud of. And I think that's super, super succinct. Just want a team that you can be proud of. A team you can tune into. You're like, yep, these guys are busting their ass. They're doing something well. So let's take a big step. Let's be optimistic, or let's be positive. Sorry, not optimistic, positive. I said last week, I wanted to see one bright spot, because last week there was no bright spots. And we can revisit the Notre Dame game here in a second, how Miami looked better versus Notre Dame in Notre Dame Stadium, which is wild. Miami looked faster than Purdue. Miami looked better schooled than Purdue. They looked like they tackled better than Purdue. For a half, they really gave it to Notre Dame. Let's be real honest. So the MAC, Purdue would finish let's not talk about 18th in the Big Ten. Let's talk about last place in the MAC. That's what Purdue looks like. At minimum, lower half of the MAC. So anyway, keep going. All right. Sorry. Lots of sidebars. Greg Manis says, tonight, OSU knew what was working and kept going there. Brilliant, easy, smart coaching. Harold wouldn't even let Mock and Love keep cooking. No, he wouldn't. Just seemed to try to break up the rhythm of the offense. Timothy Eaton says, nope, it's not. We do suck. This inept coaching staff doesn't have the ability to turn things around. Ken says the coaching staff clearly is scheming for a talent level that they don't have and for whatever reason will not change. Q Turner says, I think Walters will relived. What? Press conference made it clear. I've seen signs of hope, but unsure about the future. I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry. I can't decipher what you're saying. I apologize. Ken says, still want to know why no one has been fired yet. Fair. Hershey999 says, offense is predictable and can't execute. Defense is a bad scheme. Be lucky to get 3 wins this season. I think 3 is aggressive at this point. That's an optimistic view right there. Jim Garfin, because let's look at the schedule. Let's look at the schedule. Where are you finding 2 more wins? Where are you finding them? Northwestern? Purdue should be able to compete with Northwestern. That should be a close game. Okay. Nebraska? They're angry right now. So if we use the principle that we gave last week, Notre Dame fans were saying, man, Notre Dame was focused and angry. That's what you should do when you get your ass kicked. You should come in focused the next game. But then when you play the game, sometimes that wears off, right? Notre Dame, it didn't wear off. They played Purdue really well. They were really focused the entire game. And then Notre Dame comes off of their win, and they look like they did versus Northern Illinois for a half, right? So Purdue coming off 2 straight losses. Maybe that was the formula. Next week is the week. Here it comes. Get ready for hellfire to be rained down on the opponent. Here we go. So where do you find those 2 wins? Sound off below if you know what those 2 wins are, because I don't. Let's see. Crimson Permanent Assurance says the Sports Wrap call-in show has had 1 call. Card over. Okay, let's go back up. Todd Singer says, I know what you're talking about. Okay, the Sports Rep Talk Show. Are you talking about Lafayette, the 96.5 show? Yeah. Apathy can come in quickly. Angry. You guys are probably angry. The people that are here listening, watching are probably a little bit angry. I had many people texting me, many people direct messaging me, say, are you going to do a post game? I was going to do one. I had to watch the game at my parents' house. Thanks, Pac-12, because I had to go to somebody else's house, my parents, to watch the CW, WB, whatever, garbage network. And so I had to wait. But you guys wanted to commiserate. You guys wanted to talk a bit about the game because you're angry. Purdue Athletic Department, Mike Babinski, take note. Apathy comes quickly. Anger is a good thing, and you're going to hear it this week. Hopefully Purdue fans will email Mike Babinski and let him know, hey, buddy, this isn't great. Not pleased with this. And I think Mike Babinski and Mike Berghoff, I don't think they screw around. I really am hoping that. This is a test of their mettle, though, what's happening right now. We'll see what happens. We'll see what they do. See what the trustees and the athletic director do. Todd Singer says Walters needs to have a long, hard talk with whoever is calling the defensive plays. Yeah, see, this is the thing. Look, we're talking about offense and defense. There's plenty of blame to go around, but you got to go up higher on the rungs, don't you? You have to go up to the top. Walters hired these guys. Walters is not making adjustments. Q Turner says defensive scheme is nonsense. I completely agree. Thomas Clark says, need Boiler down tonight. Sick of the Ryan Hazel era. Yeah, I apologize the other night. I really didn't want to, and I actually just replaced Walters with Hazel in my, in that, pregame talk. Didn't mean to do that. Apologize. Really not a Freudian slip. I don't think this is the same situation I didn't coming in, but this is starting to look eerily familiar. The lack of preparation, the poor play all around the field. At least they moved the ball today. So baby steps, I guess. So if you're looking at the trends, Purdue's trending up from the Notre Dame game. Again, bright spot. Let's be optimistic. Let's be positive. They're trending upward since the Notre Dame game. Next game, here comes the W. Let's be ready. Corey Emmons says Purdue on offense and defense doesn't have any identity. I think they have an identity on both. First, I think offensively they run the ball pretty well. So that's the offensive identity. The second, defense. is never being there on time to make the play. Like always being a half step short. Never making the play when you need to. Never stopping a team on third down. If they need 4 yards, they're going to get 5. That's what I think their identity is right now. Not very good for a defensive guru, is it? So Corey continues, defense can't set the edge. And that is a major problem. They do not set the edge. It is such a huge problem because it's just like you're hemorrhaging. It's a great, great point. Offense doesn't have a clue if it's a power team or a zone read offense. Fair. But I do think there is an identity there, a little bit of an identity. If we look at last year as part of it, right, they ran the ball well last year too. Q Turner says we have to stop with the fire Walter calls. Who do we hire? Okay, so I'm going to stop. I'm not going to read any more of this. And I can tell you that type of thinking, I have a major problem with that. Meaning you don't fire somebody because you don't know who you hire. So what you're saying is that no one will come to Purdue. So you got to stick with this. I'm not calling for Walters to be fired right now. I'm calling for coaches to be fired on the staff. I am calling for that because I want to see some accountability for really bad play on the field. Things are not dead. You're in game 3 of 12, right? It's not a dead season, but it sure as hell feels like this team doesn't know how to adjust nor prepare. That's kind of bad. And the teams after this are more talented than Oregon State. That's the worst thing. Let's see. Hershey 999 says the only 2 completions at the half. Only 2 completions at the half. What an air raid. Yep. It's not an air raid. Greg Manis says 56 total. Boy, this thing just jumped on me. Sorry. Let's see if I can find it again. 56 total passing yards, most of it on Claire's TD. Yep. Timothy Eaton says air raid offense and only at 180 yards passing combined in 2 games. Goodness gracious. 180 yards in 2 games. And we are spoiled as Purdue fans with good passing, good offense. We've had a lot of that. The Jeff Brom era wasn't a golden era by any means for the offense. It was good. It was a good era. But we've seen really good passing. And you've seen Brom teams did light the scoreboard on fire sometimes, right? But I don't think it's a lot to ask, especially when you sell it as one thing. That's probably the biggest thing. Sell it as an air raid, and this is what we see. Come on. Doug and Angie Lotta says, has to help the D. Yep, you gotta help the other. It's got to be complimentary, and there's no complimentary. Doug and Angie continues. Card had time. Yep, offensive line was better this week. So there you go. 2 positives, right? Big positives. We'll just talk about those. Not focus on the other stuff. Judith Johnson says Maccabee always makes me smile. Yeah, he's a great player. He's fun to watch. He's elusive. He's unorthodox. Q Turner says this is therapy. Glad. That's what it's supposed to be. Catharsis. That's part of the reason that we started this site. When we would just type, it wasn't as cathartic. Actually talking to people, it is. So, but I disagree with you. You can't just accept the situations as it is. But I will say though, I don't know what you do with the coaching staff. I don't know what you do. There's major problems. Kilo Mike says, I thought the air raid offenses required passes. Yep, you were wrong. So was I. Mohill 93 says, sad train noises. Yep, sad trombones. Q Turner says, Mock Brown, number 1 DB, had a solid game. Yep. But the D line gets 0 pressure and have gator arms. Yeah, they don't get their hands up in the air. They are not getting to the quarterback right now. Granted, Oregon State's system is really based on handing the ball up quickly. There's everything is done very fast, and even when they run, they don't have a lot of 3-step drops. But there were a couple opportunities there that were squandered. I agree. Timothy Eaton says you can kiss next year's recruiting class goodbye. You will see kids recommitting left and right. Why Walters has to go. Yeah, I don't know what the status is. Purdue has 16 or 13 verbals right now. So I don't know about that. I don't know. It's weird. You can get guys to buy in, and Purdue has, I am just not going to say that this is a problem. There's a roster problem. I think you're agreeing that there are guys on this roster that are good enough to win games. The schemes are a mess on both sides of the ball. So Thomas Clark says Rod Woodson has coaching experience. Yeah, there's some Purdue guys out there. Doug Downing was a coach for a while. Yeah, there's guys. But no, that's not it. That's not it. Thomas Clark says Ryan Kerrigan is a pro coach. Yep, Ryan Kerrigan's a good dude too. Happy Ray says big sad. Walters needs to make a coaching change. If he doesn't, then he isn't meant to be a head coach. So I think the idea there, you're saying, well, head coaches make hard decisions. They act like CEOs, and when something goes wrong, you hold people accountable. We don't see that though. Pierce Moberg says, I have a hard time seeing how we fire Walters after this year. We pay him $5 million for the next 3 years without him being on the staff. We won't resign the coordinators and move on. I'm not going to get into everything, but I don't think your facts are all right there. That's okay about your numbers, but that's okay. Yeah. I'm not going to dig in too deep to this yet. Brandon Smitley says the coaching staff looks predictable and refuses to adapt. I completely agree. We know we don't have the best talent, but are looking unprepared and undercoached from a young head coach. It's unacceptable. The youth is the biggest story, is it not? I mean, like, to me, I keep saying this, that I think it's great that you hire a young coach who should be adaptable and be able to deal with all these weird rules and the changes in conference, all that stuff, handling it. I mean, I can't imagine, Joe Tiller towards the end of his career, how disgruntled and curmudgeon-y he would be if he were coach right now. But a young coach and layers of youth on top of that, so you are below that, is the real problem I have right now. That's what I'm looking at. Young coach, young coordinators, young assistants, youth all the way around. And I was very optimistic. You can go back. It's documented. I talked about it. I was excited about it. So I guess give it a run. What else do I have to do, right? I can't make the change for anybody, and bitching about it wasn't going to do any good. But this is the problem, though. I think that youth is what we're seeing on display week in, week out. They're not well prepared because they don't really know how to change things, and then they cannot make in-game adjustments effectively. Pierce Moberg says, what is your ideal future for the coaching staff? What do you want to see moving forward? I'm not going to get too far into that right now. I'm not going to get into that. I'm sorry. And the reason I'm not going to get into that, because I don't want to be that guy. And I don't want to feed the flames any more than I already have. I think I've done too much, but I'm not going to do that. And I apologize. I'm not trying to not listen to you, but I'm not going to do that right now. When there will be a time, and I've done this before because I've been through. So I've been through Tiller, Hope, Hazel, Brom, all on this site where I talked about it. And I talked about transitions and how do you go forward and what was needed at certain times and when I was ready to actually let it fly and let you know exactly what I think. I'm not ready to do that yet. So I apologize. Big Time Bowler says not good. Dow changes needed ASAP, at the very least, a schematic change. And here's the problem, Grant. Last week, Walter said, I'm not going to go away from what I know just because we hit a little turbulence. We need to get better. So he's not going to change, according to him. So let's see what he says this week. Because he's going to watch the same tape that you and I are going to. I mean, he's going to watch it a lot more in depth with different camera angles and cool forward and backwards buttons. I'll watch it on DVR because I'm a jackass. I will watch it again because I'm that guy. And I don't think I'm going to find anything. I'm like, oh, you know what? After I watched it, this was a pretty great game. I feel pretty good about it. Big Time continues. Sounds like no Edrin for 4 games, plus probably no Smith for at least 2 or 3. Not good. Offense going to be hurting. Yeah, and that point is a big one because I would say that's the 1 and 2 receiver. And so the offense is going to get even more compressed and one-dimensional. Can we do that? Can we get even more one-dimensional? We're going to find out. But the big thing that having CJ Smith there was a big deal for me. Having a guy that could take the top off the defense and Edrin, that big-bodied possession receiver. Having both of them out. Well, now we're at 3 games in, no Smith. Morissette, by the way, Morissette has been awesome. He's been super consistent. I don't know if he had he had 1 catch today, right? But he's been a really rock solid receiver. And Claire, I think, has lived up to his building. I think he had a couple drops last week, but was solid today. I think he was thrown at 3 times, and 2 of them were catchable, and he caught the 2 that were catchable, if I'm remembering correctly. So, but yeah, this is trying, because to lose your best possession receiver and lose your best speed receiver, it's tough. And I would think Smith would be a slot guy, but I'm not sure. We haven't really seen him on the field yet. Jim Garfinkel says, "Did you see any adjustments after halftime?" I don't think so. Did you? Comment. Let me know. Tell me where I'm wrong. I don't remember any. I was pretty mad at that point, though. So I switched over, watched some other football, tried to cool off. But yeah, I don't remember any adjustments there. Why do we put Dylan? Pierce Moberg says, why do we put Thieneman 20 yards back? Has to be involved in the play. Failed to commit failed to commit to the option on the pitch. Played 10 to 11 football on defense all night. Yeah, you were playing 10 on 11. You're right. It doesn't make any sense. They moved him closer to the line of scrimmage. I remember one play specifically. They brought him up, and he was probably more of in a linebacker position. Purdue was flattened out the line. I think they had 5 down linemen, and Thieneman came way up. So he was like 6-7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and right away he went in and he stuffed the running back right away. And I was like, okay, freaking move him around. Give Purdue a chance. Give the defense a chance to succeed. Give Thieneman a chance to succeed. How many tackles does he miss because he's coming from so far away and he's on a dead sprint? And then if a running back just shakes him one time, you can't change direction on a dead sprint. So yeah, this is the philosophy of this defense, though. And I'm told he's a defensive genius. So I guess I got to live with it. Doesn't look genius to me. Doug and Angie Lotta say, I see 2 games within 14 points. Northwestern, Michigan State. Good. Those are good. Those are good thoughts. I forgot about Michigan State. Could go either way depending on turnovers. Yeah, Michigan State is an okay team. Northwestern is an okay team. I think that's fair. But I think those are fair. IU all of a sudden is a freaking beast. And people are, Purdue friends are like, yeah, they've done this before. I'm like, they have not looked like this before. They've beaten up on bad teams before, but they have not been this relentless. They have not been this sound. They are really good on both sides of the ball. They don't make a ton of mistakes. So IU, to me, I'm moving it out of that category too. I'm with you on that. I move IU out of that group. And I don't know. I mean, I know Nebraska choked this last one away, but goodness. Yeah, it's tough schedule. Todd Singer says, thanks for the live stream, B-Dowd. Helps me cope with the situation, but so does the Widow Jane 10. Yeah, so that's, I mean, I can't, I'm not drinking this late in the evening. So, yeah, and like I said, I think I told you my philosophy, Todd. I try not to drink coming off a loss, because then I'm just like, it makes you, tears in your whiskey is no fun. It's time for laughter. So we'll do that again sometime. We'll get back to laughing. Basketball practice starts Monday, boys and girls. Let's see. Yeah, Q-Tenor says this coaching staff makes 0 adjustments. Mark Garrity says, I think it'll be interesting to see what our AD does. Burke was completely comfortable with apathetic fan base. I feel like Babinski is not that type of AD, and so do I. But this is a test. I'm telling you, this is a test of the trustees and the athletic director. This is a different era. I mean, they have to, Purdue, you've probably found this out on the they call it the Purdue football show now. The gosh darn, I did it again. The Ryan Walter show. They don't call it the Ryan Walter show anymore because he's not going to be on there every week. Just like Painter, it was a smart move. But we found out, I didn't really know, Purdue has a GM now. Football GM, which is very interesting to me. I don't know exactly. I don't think that GM does the exact same things that an NFL GM does. Obviously, you can't do everything the same because the rules are different. But yeah, there's a lot of changes, and you are dealing with a very, very different situation. I think you're dealing with. I mean, this is pro football. Pro football. It's not regulated correctly yet. The rules aren't clear enough. There's not enough transparency when acquisitions happen, through the portal because you don't know who's getting paid what. But it's pro football. And so it's a new era, and everybody's going to get tested right now. So Jim Garfinkel says, I got to evaluate what we're doing defensively. We can accomplish the things that we're asking for from what we're going schematically. Coach Ryan Walters, postgame. Got to evaluate what we're doing defensively. You know exactly what we're doing defensively, Coach. The scheme is yours. This is your baby. Changes are needed. Doug and Angie say, I wanted to prove it. They weren't. Number 18, they haven't. Start against Nebraska, bring in our Brown. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with anything right now. It's my fault, I'm sure. John Reinert says, we're dealing with millions of dollars even at Purdue. Yeah, millions of dollars. This is big business. And you need big-time CEO type thinking from the coach. And I don't know if we have that right now. So here's the thing. Let's pretend for a second Purdue had all the patience in the world and they had low expectations. The fan base was like, yep, we're going to come regardless how much the play on the field stinks. I think Ryan Walters could be really good. Like, I really mean that. I think he could be really good, but I don't think we have the patience to wait for that to happen. What's going to happen in that time as he becomes better, as he becomes situationally better and the wisdom starts compiling, because I think he's a good coach. I just don't think that the details, the ability to make adjustments are such a big deal. And the hires that he's made so far, gosh, they are not complimentary. Not complimentary football, not complimentary hires. So I just don't think Purdue, I don't think this era has patience for this. I really don't. And I don't think, here's the other thing, he's not a favorite son of Purdue. If you had a guy that maybe somebody said, you know what, he's new to coaching. For instance, if Purdue went out, and I know this is some of the silliness on message boards years ago, go hire Drew Brees as head coach. Okay, fun. Yeah, I like Drew Brees too. But if you hire Drew Brees as head coach, you're like, okay, this is your Pat Fitzgerald type of guy. So you're going to give him a couple years to learn. And you're going to hope that Brees goes out and just gets the best of the best to build his staff on because he's never done it before, right? So he's going to do like his charming CEO bit. He's going to use some of the stuff he's learned in business, some of the stuff he's learned in pro football, right? And then he's going to lean heavily on these really salty, seasoned coordinators and assistant coaches. Walters didn't do that. And also Walters, it wasn't his first coaching job. He's been around a little bit as a DC. So yeah, different circumstance. Pierce Milberg says, should you play with the worst in the Big Ten mentality? I don't doubt that there are ways to motivate the locker room, but I wonder if players are focusing on the wrong things. Yeah, they are focusing on the wrong things because you can tell that they're just not dialed in. They're not where they should be as a team right now. And a fire needs to be lit. And we can't get into the psychology of that because we don't know the team, right? We're not in the locker room. And there is not a formula that this works every time. You don't want to lose the locker room. He said, last week you didn't lose them. They were great afterwards. So that's great. But yeah, I don't know. John Reiner says Brom won today. Farther away from that staff gets, the worse it gets. Brom ramped things up. Yeah, Brom's a good fit. Should have gone directly to Louisville. It's a shame he came to Purdue. That's where I am. And I don't mean to. The longer I get away from the Brom era, the more I'm like, he should never come to Purdue. He didn't want to be at Purdue. He wanted to go home to mama the whole time. Should have waited till he could have gone straight there. So I don't. We can judge things through a different glass as we get further away from him. Gosh, it's a long show. Let's see. Kevin in Albuquerque says, realize we had injuries, but 10 net yards to wide receivers is a problem. It's a huge problem. Cat Feline, it's double. Cat Feline says, Mark, great coaching is not the same as being a coordinator. Absolutely. Let's see. He said up there. Yeah, Mark Garrity says, Ryan may be a good head coach after he fails at Purdue, goes back to being a coordinator for a decade at a few different programs, and then he can take the reins again somewhere and be a good head coach. Yeah, gosh darn it, I don't want to talk this way. And I'm talking this way too much already. I think I'm not going to, we'll get there. Gosh. Yeah, we'll get there. Oh, happy Rays. It sucks losing, but we kind of expected it coming into the season. The hard part is this has completely derailed minus our run game. So the Notre Dame obviously knocks everybody off kilter, right? Because of the historic nature of the loss. And so then I always said that this game was the pivotal game of the season. And I meant it. I meant it after the Notre Dame game, and I meant it before the season the same way. I thought this game was extremely important so you could not necessarily get to a bowl. I think that's kind of a stupid goal anyway because so many guys bail before the bowl now. But see, you could say this season was a good season and the program moved forward in spite of the fact you had a tough schedule. I thought this was an extremely important game to get there. And then to go there and just get absolutely mauled and not really get to the point where the game was close enough to feel like you were competing, to piss it away early too when you had opportunities. Those are all tough for me to swallow. Drew Rogers says, "Is there anything to stop me from thinking we won't win again this season?" Your call. Your call. Your call. Finding 2 more wins though that's so. I think Purdue will put one together. I just think that's the way college football is, and I think this team's talented enough that you could have a day where the birds are chirping, the leaves are a brilliant shade of orange and yellow, and the sky is just a crystal blue, and it's a better it's a Chamber of Commerce day in West Lafayette. Purdue just comes out and just lets all their frustration out on one team, and they just beat the hell out of them. We saw it last year. It happened. I don't believe this team is a lost cause, and I just don't. Seeing things the way they are right now, finding 2 wins is tough for me. So, yeah, do what you want though. I don't think there's any reason to go into everything being negative. Here's the thing I would do next week: go enjoy your family, enjoy the fact that if it's homecoming, you're meeting up with people. Just do that, and go into the stadium and get rid of some frustration and cheer on the team in a way that represents Purdue well. Don't worry about the rest of it. But then during the week, we can all sit and stew in it a little bit about what we think the longer view is. But I don't know if it does us any good. That's the thing. Even somebody like me, who this is what I do for a sadistic hobby. I don't know if it does us any good. So we'll talk about it on Monday night. We'll have a handsome hour, 9-ish, like we do usually. Justin Hood says the bowl gets you 15 extra practices, which is why it's always my goal. Those practices are great for development of young players. Yeah, and Justin, I used to completely agree with this philosophy. Completely. I was in lockstep. I was like, this is why you need to go consistently to bowls, because it's program building, right? 15 extra practices. You start pointing towards next year, start looking at guys doing their new roles, especially if you have the ability to play them, then the red shirts don't get burnt, right? You got a lot of guys that are, weren't ready, but now maybe they're ready in December, not January, but December. Now, though, the bowl season has been so soiled, if you will, that a lot of teams, you're not even fielding a full team anymore in the bowls. So I'm with you, but I'm not with you as much as I used to be because everything has changed. Again, this is just the era changing. John Reiner says, "Boiler up, you do a great job." Thank you, John. Appreciate you being here. You're an old timer. You've been around with the show for a long time too. Appreciate that. Drew Rogers says, "I'm in the band at Purdue." Excellent. Oh, so we got a current student. That's awesome. So I'll be there. You're awesome, down. Thank you, Drew. And so Drew, my son is a freshman at Purdue. I don't know if you have been around long enough to. My son is a Purdue. He's a freshman, and my nephew is also a freshman at Purdue. So love hearing the current students coming on. I think we've had a couple now. Good to sound off. So please come back. Let us know your perspective. It's going to be different than the old guys' perspective, but let's enjoy our Saturdays. Here's the other thing about college football: win or lose, it's fleeting. It is such a short season, and man, I hate it when it's over. Absolutely hate it. I like basketball, but I love college football season. I love tailgates. I love the fact that you get done with the day and you're exhausted and you got sunburn and you're whatever. Maybe your team lost, maybe they won, but then you get to go and watch more football till midnight or 1. I think we've gone through even the West Coast action right now because it's 1:40 a.m. here in central Indiana. But I love college football season. So thanks for being here, Drew. Mark Garrity says, I'll be there in the alumni band. That's cool. That's awesome. So, yeah. And so, it's what the thing that always gets me every year about the about homecoming is the old Pete's, right? People think current Purdue Pete is scary. They clearly don't know about the old Pete's. The old Pete's were terrifying. And when you go back 40, 50 years, the old paper mache heads, nightmare fuel. Absolutely terrifying stuff. So I always like seeing the alumni bands there. It's fun to see. Alumni cheerleaders, some of them look like they still could put their old uniforms on, guys and girls. That's impressive because I'm not the same weight I was when I graduated in 97. So good on all you guys for doing that. It's great. Looking forward to seeing you. It'll be fun. Michael said, everybody, how you doing tonight? Okay, could be better. I'm with you. Good night from SoCal, John. Thanks for being here. And that's about it. I think we're good. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and look forward to seeing everybody at homecoming next week. Hope this wasn't too much of a downer for you. Hope it was cathartic for you. And yeah, I'm going to try to, I'm not doing a good job of it. I'm going to try to get away from the looking in deep into the future. We just don't know. There are 10 weeks left. 9 games, 10 weeks. Purdue has another bye week. So you've got some time left in the season. Let's not rule it out. Things can happen. It just doesn't look good right now. It doesn't look good. Hopefully they find something, but they got to change. They have to have major adjustments. Can't stick to your guns anymore, Coach. Bad news. Have a great evening. God bless you. Hammer down. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Bye.